So right now he's cutting up the forearm of the animal. Avoiding cutting through the pad, because when you keep the pads intact on these rugs and these tanned hides that you're gonna do, it's really special, right? So when we get through this wrist bones, what you're gonna see, and there's 8 wrist bones in a bear just like there are in a human. So we're gonna cut through these bones here and disarticulate them and essentially leave all of the hand bones inside that paw, right? So now he's making a cut up the humerus area, which is the upper part of the arm of the bear. And we're gonna be, as I said, very careful not to poke any holes in the hide. You've seen rugs, I'm sure. Maybe you have taxidermy friends that have received pelts from people that have a bunch of holes and knife marks in it. And that's what you really want to try to avoid. And that's where I said we're going to sacrifice some of the meat if we have to cut through the muscle and leave it attached to the inside of the hide in order to preserve the actual pelt to make a nice tanning. You do not have to clean the inside of this cape of the animal. You're going to take it to a skilled taxidermist who's like an artist, and they will clean it up, they will flesh it out, and you do not have to worry about it. The most important thing is keeping the hide in a really nice shape with not many holes in it for the taxidermist. So now what Adrian's doing is cutting underneath that pad, getting up to the wrist bones. So now a little anatomy lesson. All of these muscles on the forearm of this animal that you see right here are just like the muscles on your forearm. They're responsible for flexing that bear's wrist. So what we're going to want to do is get underneath all these tendons right here and cut through them. That will allow us to bend that wrist backwards and get the knife into the bones. So it's these muscles right here, and you can see when you flex your forearm, they contract. We're going to cut through all of those tendons right there, which will allow the wrist to open wide up. And we're going to manipulate the knife through those 8 bones of the wrist, not touching the paw at all. Adrian's just cutting directly down. We know there's a bone right there. The radius and ulna are right there. He just cut through one of the tendons because the wrist just gave way big time to the back.
So whenever you come to areas where there's a complicated kind of junction of different muscles and stuff, just take your time and slow down. Again, to puncture through the hide is not really difficult here, but if I just start peeling it back and just run my knife basically along the hide, it's going to expose more of the tendons or more of the muscle that's down inside of there, and allow me to just kind of slowly work my way through it until I get it opened up to where, you know, what I'm trying to do now is get down into, you know, below this pad where the back end of this bone is, that's down in here. It's pretty close. Mm-hmm.
So now the hide is attached to the muscle by something called fascia, which is a connective tissue. Oftentimes, once you make your initial cut, you can use your finger and really get in there deep with your finger and pull the hide off of the muscle that way. And that's what we're going to try to do. When you're using your knife to do that, you could possibly rip the hide or cut through the hide. So we're only going to use the knife when we need to, when that hide is really attached and there's a fascial bind. Otherwise, we're going to be using our fingers to really get in there and pull it apart. Now, when you do use your knife on that fascia, you're almost just setting the knife on it. You're not applying pressure because it takes very little pressure and a nice sharp knife to just go ahead and release that fascia. And you'll actually hear it, and all of a sudden, more of the hide will be able to pull apart. Now, removing the hide like this for caping really does take some skilled knife work, so it's really important as you embark on this to get your first bear rug or tanned hide. Just take your time. Make sure you have the time set aside to do that and enjoy the whole process. So what I'm doing is just moving and articulating the wrist to find that joint. And I believe that joint, put your fingers right here and you can feel that joint move. So we found that joint. We're gonna put the tip of the knife down in, not pushing too far because we don't want to poke through the backside, just releasing the cartilage and everything.
And so now you heard it pop, right? So now everything is opened up in here. And again, this is another area where it's pretty easy for you to puncture through the backside of this hide. So what I'll try to do oftentimes is run my fingers underneath and basically separate the backside of the wrist, because once I get that free and clear, or a full pathway in there, then I can safely cut this, and then we would be able to just skin the rest of this front shoulder out.
So what you're seeing here is the head of the ulna in the radius. And as Adrian said, he's going to remove the skin from the back and totally articulate the skin. Then he'll take his knife and gently cut through the remainder of that. And this paw will be hanging there completely free and clear. And that's what we're going for. We want to deliver that to the taxidermist. So he got his fingers through now. He's working that pelt up so we don't cut through it. And sometimes instead of using a knife, you can just twist, as he's doing right here, and he's probably gonna have to use a little knife to touch that, because that's a ligament.
But I'm safe now I'm not gonna puncture the hide on the backside of this joint. So now I have my finger in here. I'm gonna put my knife in above my finger, pointing away from my finger, and just gently work my knife back and forth. And you can see that now the paw is completely intact and very easy for a taxidermist to work with. Has all of the detailed skinning work that they know how to do really, really well, is all intact for them to be able to put back together and size, whatever they're going to size in there to do the mount.
So now what the process that Adrian's going to go through is skinning the rest of that arm all the way down. And then once that's finished, we will continue that cut down the belly of the animal to the hind leg, and we will take the paw off of the hind leg. Notice how he is setting his knife on the animal. That's extremely important to do when you set your knife down. For example, he has a nice knife that is brown. If he were to set it in the dirt right there, all of a sudden that knife becomes camouflage on the dirt, and I'm well aware it's a brown bear, but if we set the knife there, we know where that knife is at all times, and we know how to access it, as opposed to looking around on the ground and pausing our whole process to find a knife. So that's a pro tip, to just always keep your knife on the animal that you're field dressing, whether you're field dressing it for meat or field dressing it for a rug or a tanned hide. So now he made his way down to the center of the animal, and he's going to cut that ventral surface going around the penis and the scrotum, and then all the way to the anus, and then down the ventral aspect, or the medial aspect rather, of the leg. So he's making this cut, and we will get in there with our fingers. After we get the cut, we want to get this rear paw disarticulated.
And again, when you're doing this, if you keep your knife parallel with the body cavity, you're not going to get into the guts. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm getting my thumb in there and pulling that up, and then I'm making slight cuts, you know, almost towards the sky, and I'm at no risk of jabbing my knife down in there and opening up the gut cavity of you know, whatever animal you're working on. You typically when you're skinning, you're not trying to get down into you know, the gut cavity. So I'm gonna switch sides here. So
He worked his way around the penis and around the scrotum, and he's down near the anus, and now he's going to work his way down the medial aspect of that rear leg.
and so again, we always want to find what joint we're shooting for here. So on this rear ankle, the Achilles tendon comes in right here. So this is the joint that we're shooting to separate the foot from the leg. So I want to stop my cut when I get down in here. There's no reason for me to cut down into this lower foot any further than I need to. So again, I just, you know, put pressure on the foot, and I can feel exactly where that is and run my finger around. Now I have an eyeball mark here, and I can actually start there and then just connect with the cut that I made coming down. So now I'm connected all the way from the brisket all the way down to my back ankle on this side of the bear.
So what Adrian's going to do now, much like he did on the front arm, is work his way all the way around that hind leg. And the key points that he pointed out is the Achilles tendon. That connects to your calf muscle. So we're gonna need to cut that. That'll allow that foot to articulate freely. And the landmark that you're looking for on that rear foot of the bear is your medial malleolus. So if you think about your ankle, it's the ankle bone on the inside. And we're gonna cut down through that, cut all the tendons that are around that, and ligaments, and the Achilles is going to be cut as well. And that'll allow that foot to open up to the side, just like we did with the front paw.
Okay, so I'm all the way down in here, and I have basically the Achilles tendon here is I can get my fingers all the way underneath it. So again, all of these things that I'm trying to do are to make sure that I'm not going to puncture or put holes in my cape. So once I've got that, I can run my knife down inside of there. Now, opposite of what I was doing before, I'll turn my knife down and cut. So now this the major connection for the ankle and the back foot has been removed. Okay, so I'm gonna again just start working my way around this joint that's inside of here.
And he's found the medial malleolus right there, and that's what we're going to articulate the knife all the way around to remove all of the ligaments that are holding all of those ankle bones together.
So now I found where the joint is down inside of there, and I can get the tip of my knife down in there, and just, again, I have all of the hide pulled away from that. So all I'm doing is just gently working down into the joint.
So the bone that he's working around right now is your shin bone. That's known as your tibia. It leads down to that medial malleolus. And that is what primarily forms the connection of your foot to your lower leg. And he's disarticulating it so we can get that paw off as a whole so the taxidermist can do their artistry with it.
So I can see I've still got some other tendons connecting the back. So again, I'll make sure I get the hide completely out of the way, and I can get my knife down in between that tendon, the bones down inside of there, and again, I'm just going to stick the tip of my knife in, and I'm going to turn it down and open it up. So now I've basically released, and you can hear I popped that joint now. So all I'm going to do is just continue to work my knife down in here to open up all of the areas of this this joint, similar to what we did on the front, right? So sometimes you can just twist. I have one significant ligament that's down inside of here to sever, and then it should be pretty well done.
I promise you, if you follow those simple techniques that we're showing you here, your taxidermist is really, really going to appreciate it. And again, this is something that you don't want to rush through. So if you get to your bear and it was a long hunt and you're tired.
All right, so what I have done at this point is separated. I have one more. It still looks like one more piece of connection in there. I've separated the rear foot from the lower leg.
And notice we're peeling it back like a banana peel.
Yeah, like you're taking a sock off. You're stripping a tube sock off. Okay, so basically at this point, I would just leave this. We're gonna go through, do the other side, and then we'll come back to basically peeling the rest of the hide off of the animal, getting the head off. But the big thing here is if you tuck your what you're working on back up inside the hide, and it's really nice to have a second person here, but that keeps all the dirt off of it, right? So I'm not getting any dirt down in on my meat. I'm not getting dirt on, really on the inside of this hide. I like to do the feet like this first because they're kind of the most difficult or the most technical part of the skinning. The rest of the skinning of this animal is going to be super simple. So if I get both the or all four of the legs done and for feet done, then we'll just be able to blow through the rest of the animal. So, all right. So I'm gonna start on this one right in the center of that foot. I'm gonna go all the way down to where this kind of elbow joint is, and then I'm gonna run straight across again. So I can come this way on it.
Again, he's staying out of the armpit. The armpit's a very hard area for a taxidermist to sew.
Okay, so again, we're opened up on our.
So if you remember from the last arm we're doing, he's going to cut all those tendons for those flexors of the forearm. That'll open up that wrist, allow us to hyperextend it. He's going to put his knife tip into where the radius and ulna meet those 8 wrist bones, disarticulate that, and then pull it back like a sock. Working around the little pad that we have right here, not to cut through that. That way it maintains its integrity and it looks fantastic.
So here's all the tendons, and again, I'm going to get my knife down in underneath there, and I'm going to turn my knife away from the hide and away from my fingers.
Lost another light. It's what happens when you shoot a bear at about 6:30 at night. You have to process it at night, and sometimes the lights that turn the night into day, much like the Doors song, go out. And we're back again.
Okay, so I'm just still cutting through.
And we're back out.
Still cutting through.
If you have seizures, you might want to turn away. We're back. Now Adrian has field dressed hundreds of animals, so just keep in mind and watch what he's doing, that he's always cognizant of where he puts his knife down. He's abiding by his rules of getting the knife under and moving it away to protect the hide as well as himself. Because it's not going to be very beneficial to try to take off this hide for a rug if you end up slicing your hand and need to go to the hospital to get it fixed.
So I'm basically down. I gotta pull from underneath this pad and open some of this up. I'm down into where the joint is. So
He's using his fingers to feel it. Right? You
Yeah, so you
have
just-
these fingers to feel where things are. You got to
just
use
bend
them.
it back and forth. Flex the joint. And now I popped. So again, now that I've opened this up, I just want to make sure I keep the hide clear of that joint, and I'm just going to go in here and just start, touching any of this connective tissue that's holding this, each of these bones that are down inside of here together. Once I get it most of the way through, usually you can twist one way and the other, and you end up with just one or two pieces. And again, the technique that I did on the other one, I want to connect behind this hide, or behind the bone, the hide on both sides, so that I'm not running the risk of puncturing the hide when I go through and make the final cut to separate this. So usually you can work your fingers in there. Sometimes you got to get a little creative with getting a knife to, get down inside of there, but I think that's the skin a little bit away from it.
So as you get to your bear and you're trying to pop the wrist like that, it may not come off quite as easy. And you might be looking at this saying, how in the heck did Adrian and Mike manage to pop the wrist like they did? Remember, there's a process. You cut through those tendons, you find the ligaments that are holding the bones together, and you loosen everything up, and then you can apply that pressure. Sometimes that pressure is a lot of your body weight to get it to pop. But once you actually pop it and you open it up, now we're just searching for remaining connections. Adrian's finding them with his finger and then just touching them with his knife and releasing it even more.
And so now we have, on this side again, separated our paw from our leg, and we're ready to continue to skin this down. I'm going to jump it back and do the second rear leg, and then we'll be able to just basically pull the whole hide off of this animal, pull the quarters off of it, and from there. All right, so on this one now, because we cut around the penis and around the scrotum and everything, I'm going to need to go through, and that'll remain with this half of the hide basically. So I'm going to just cut down in, find the testicles, and I'm going to come underneath those testicles down in here, and then I can open this side up. But when we go to pull the hide, obviously the penis and the testicles and stuff are going to stay with this side of the hide.
Even though you're going to have your head with this animal, because we're going to cut the head off through the vertebrae and the entire pelt, it's always important to keep evidence of sex. Mm-hmm. I'm going to touch up that knife. So Adrian's knife is starting to get dulled a little bit, so he's just going to run it through his sharpener a little bit when he feels it's the right time, because as we always say, a sharp knife is a safe knife. You have a sharpener?
Yeah.
Great. So on the penis of the bear and the scrotum's back there, you can actually feel and see this penis bone that is right there. There's only a few mammals in the animal kingdom that have that, one of which being a walrus, the other being bear. They're actually pretty cool souvenirs. You can cut that out, and we will do that once we pull it back. A lot of people cut it out, clean it, turn it into letter openers or anything else, or just as something to set on their desk at work that most people aren't going to know what it is. And then if you tell them it's the penis bone of a bear, you immediately turn into the superhero at work.
All right, so again, like the other leg that we did back here, I'm just gonna find again where this joint is, and I wanna make sure when I continue my cut down, I don't wanna go any further than I have to into the rear foot.
He's looking for that medial malleolus, so that inside of the ankle bone. He's gonna follow it all the way down. He's gonna find the Achilles tendon. He's gonna cut through that. He's gonna apply his weight and evert or turn that foot outwards until he hears it pop. And then he's going to go in and touch the ligaments and fully articulate it. Now, it's not a requirement to take the bear meat, depending on which state you're in, to take the bear meat. You can just simply take the hide or the head or whatever you want to keep from the bear. However, we at CutRite Mobile really believe that you should honor your kill and eat your animal. And believe it or not, bear meat is extremely tasty. Most steaks, elk, deer, even moo cows, aren't very tasty when they're well done. They get a very leathery, rubbery texture, hard to cut, hard to chew. You always want to cook your bear to at least 161 degrees. Okay? So there's a parasite that lives in the muscles of bears called trichinosis. And this parasite forms cysts in the muscles. And in order to actually kill those cysts, you need to cook the muscle, which is your steak and whatnot, to 161 degrees. You may hear people argue that it only needs to be cooked to 146 because 146 kills the larvae. While that's true, the larvae are not what you're worried about. It's the cyst, right? So what happens if you eat a piece of undercooked bear meat, you swallow it and those cysts get into your digestive system and the acids in your stomach release those cysts, and that worm actually goes through, burrows through your intestines and makes its way into your muscles and cyst up in order for it to be passed on to its next host. Luckily, there's not many cases of cannibalism, so it's usually not passed from human to other human. However, it's very prominent in bears and other animals, so we want to be aware of that. So always be aware of the temperature that you're cooking your animal to. So he's already cut through the Achilles. And he twisted that ankle. And now he's finding all of the ligaments and the tendons and gently touching them, making sure not to touch the hide.
Okay, so the bones are pretty well separated, and there's one more ligament down inside of here to get through. And again, I'm just going to go along the bone and keep my knife pointed away from the hide. Just keep opening, just keep separating any of the connections that are down inside of there. So here's another pretty good one that's got a little bit of muscle with it. So again, if I can get my knife in here this way underneath that, I don't run any risk of cutting the hide because the hide is separated away from there. Now, if I were to start cutting down through that, I could you know, cut through the hide. So again, I'm just gonna tip of my knife through there and just keeping the sharp part of my blade pointed straight upward. I think we are free and clear. All right.